Authority. I'll do a roll call. Rose.
Here.
Thanks, Paul. Mr. Greco is not with us tonight, and he is in the hospital, we understand, but oh, he's home now. Okay. All right, so we wish him well, but he is not here for good reason. Okay, well, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? All right, and may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, moving on. Do we have any public comment for agenda items only? So if you've seen something on the agenda, anybody from the members of the public want to come up and make a statement? Okay. All right. We'll move on then. All right, everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes from the June 27, 2023 meeting. Why does
I don't think the minutes were in your packet,
Yeah, they were.
so
Oh,
they're
that's
still
right.
being finished.
Oh,
They'll
they're
be,
still
we'll have
being-
those for you
okay,
your next
right,
meeting.
right. That's why it says still in process. All right, so we will table that item. All right, moving on. Do we have a treasurer's report this evening?
You should have had in your packet, the treasurer's report. I will make note on a couple things, for you, that I want to bring to your attention. You do have a revenue and expense, in there, and you can see based on bond dollars that we've actually are spending more than we brought in so far. We are using some of the dollars that we have in reserve to help take care of that until the actual, all the revenues come in for the year. And so that's how we're handling that, which is not uncommon with the way the flow goes, because you have the first payment for the bond is before you have the second quarter collection. And this third payment is before we have the fourth quarter collection. So you're always going to kind of be behind in those areas. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And we're looking at watching that. The other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is you have your bond construction fund projections. And based on tonight's actions, or potentially based on tonight's actions, you will actually be less, have less there than that would be available to pay what's there. And so we will, once we get them to deplete the bond funds from the bank, we'll go ahead and make up the difference using funds from your fund balance. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, where we're headed with that.
And would you, I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you, Norm, from an accounting perspective, you'll just zero out the bond fund on the general ledger? And
Yeah,
everything goes
it would be zeroed out and then we get move forward. But we'll go ahead and continue to track it this way for you so that you can see.
Yeah, no, that's a good tool.
What we've done, and if you go back, I can go back and actually add to prior years. I did that a couple times. And so we have the prior years. You can kind of see how it's been spent down. If anybody were to ask you, you could report back how that is. And so I just wanted you to be aware of that.
I mean, at some point, and it may be for our finance director, and I don't see it as pressing, a sort of reconciliation or truing up, if you will,
Yep.
of what was originally expected in the bond when we, issued it for 33,250,000 or whatever it was. Each category, there were a number of categories meant to be covered by that. It would be interesting to see, how much material changed than what we thought 5 years ago, how much general conditions or legal expenses or things like that. It just as an FYI and on how we estimated the bond 5 years ago.
Okay. We can start working on that.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna take some
I
time.
know it will. That's
And
why.
there's a lot of payments that have been made. But we'll start working on that. And hopefully we'll have that about the time that we finish up all the things that we're spending money on. Or at least get it so that when you do finish up, you'll have a good report.
Yep.
And reporting. The other thing that you asked us to do, you asked us to turn over the 196,000, I think it was 196,000 that Rockwell owes over to Portnoy. That's been done, but you'll see that it's still on the June report. That wasn't done till beginning of January, because remember, our meeting ended up being pretty late in the month. I mean, not January, July. Moving along very quickly through the year. But yeah, so it was done.
It was June, actually.
So yeah, it was in the June meeting.
Right.
You said that, but that meeting ended up being later in the month, if you recall. And so it was actually done in the beginning of July. So that has been done. It has been turned over to Portnoy. They're reviewing it. They haven't made a commitment of how they're going to go after it at this point, but they are reviewing it.
Is that for all the over 365 or just the Rockwell?
It's just the Rockwell. So what we're going to do, once a year, we turn over everything that wasn't turned over in the past that meets the qualifications. And so that happens in September. We're actually starting to put that list together now. If people don't make payments, what will that list be? And so we'll have that for you, and that we'll turn that over at that time.
Is there a cap to meet a qualification, or they won't go after lower?
Well, I think we made a decision, anything less than 50,000, we weren't going to turn
Okay.
over to them because there
I
was some
think we have a
cost.
policy, right?
But we have an actual policy
And
that
maybe
talks
we
about
could
it.
circulate,
And I will make sure we get the
That'd be great.
policy out to everyone.
especially, yeah, so that, especially,
I'm an
Steve, who
AR
was,
guy.
yeah, he's good with this stuff and also is new-ish to the board, so.
Yeah.
We like AR guys.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he was here when we passed that policy,
Yeah.
so it'd be good for
Yep.
him to see that.
So we'll get that to you so that
Thank
you
you.
can have it. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions you have on the finances?
I have two questions. The first of which is on your bank reconciliation.
Yep.
There's a category that says bank adjustments. What might that be? What? To reconcile to the bank balances, our book.
I'm having to dig in my brain a
So
little
it's
bit. I'm sorry.
page-
I know what it is. It's the 52,000.
Yes.
I think it has to do, if I'm not mistaken, with the timing of the monies coming from our collection group that collects our revenue. And so, but the fact that it's negative, I'm not 100% sure on
Yeah,
that.
so
I'll have to get you an answer.
Okay. The next is, and I know we're gonna approve, or it's on the agenda to approve the payment to the bond, but the letter from the trustee, from the bank. It's got a less funds on hand. So we're actually making a bigger payment. It's just, there's funds that must be sitting in TD Bank.
Yeah, so when we transferred the dollars over in, I think it was the beginning of March, but it was the February dollars. They had asked for a certain amount of money, and some of that has actually been in their hands. They didn't pay it out yet. And it has to do with, they pick up some of the principal that they're paying out in both payments. And so that money sits there, and then they go ahead and we give them this one, and then they do it all.
So they're
at one time.
holding, if you will, we prepaid.
We prepaid about 300,000.
So.
It's actually, if you look in the financial report on the page that I know what it is
You
in
know
my
what
packet.
number,
But
what number is it
there's
in the
pages
packet?
that, I think it's page 9 and 10
Of the packet or of the,
It's of the packet.
okay,
There's one that's titled bond fund activity and the
Actually,
other's titled,
Pages.
actually, I think they're both titled the same thing, but it's hard, they're two different things. Oh, one's labeled construction fund and the other's labeled debt service. 2018 debt service.
Page
That-
86.
That page, or not that page, but that amount of 365,000 is what they're holding on our behalf.
So and again, I'm focused on nits and gnats at times, but when we authorize the payment, we're authorizing a transfer of funds. But
Correct.
the actual bond payment is higher.
That's correct.
Okay.
That
And I don't know
poorly
how
written
you
on my
want to do
part.
that resolution or whether
Yeah.
we want to correct it. We're authorizing a transfer of funds
Yep,
so that the trustee can make the payment, but the actual bond payment's higher.
that is correct. I'm sorry.
We'll probably, well. And
When
I
we
need
get-
to take a look at the Authorities Act. I mean, in other classes of municipalities, it'd be appropriate to do a resolution prior if we're doing these transfers, so. We'll take a look and punch that up for you for your next meeting, if appropriate.
But we need to make the transfer this before.
Yes.
We can ratify it.
Right, okay. That's it. Thank you.
anything else for the treasurer's report, Steve?
I don't have anything else unless there's other questions.
Okay. All right, now we'll hear from our engineer, Dave Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick update on the French Road and actually the Bryn Mawr Ave sanitary sewer. So I had explained to Steve over the past couple of days that our office has completed the survey, the field survey of those two areas. And we're in the process of creating base plans for those to evaluate for Bryn Mawr Avenue, alternate routes for connecting or diverting the sanitary sewer to avoid surcharging the line crossing Westchester Pike. And then for French Road, we're preparing a base plan to show the location of the sanitary lateral / authority owned line behind the 3 dwellings off of French Road. Our CAD department is working on those plans. They should have them for my review early next week. And then once those are completed, I review them and I'll send them out to Steve and for distribution to the rest of the authority members, probably by the end of next week. The rest of my items on the engineer's report are kind of scattered throughout the agenda. So rather than rehash everything, unless the authority has any other questions, that would conclude my engineer's report for the time being.
All right, I think that makes sense. All right, and anything, Steve, from you on the operation manager?
I would just make note, I believe in your packet, there was a form from, or a monthly report from KDX. I just want to make note that we are continuing to have a muffin monster issue.
What is that?
I'm going to let Dave explain what a muffin monster is, but you'll do a better job than I will. I'll kind of beat around it, but
So Muffin Monster is nothing more like than Nike is to, basketball shoes. It's just a particular vendor for what's called a comminutor or a sewage grinder. It's basically something that hangs on the wall of the wet well where sanitary sewage comes into the wet well. It has 2 spinning cylinders that have a bunch of blades on them to macerate any solids or any large items that are coming into the wet well. And what that does is it protects your pumps, prevents large items from getting clogged or going through the pump system and damaging the pumps.
so I just wanted you to be aware that they keep getting an error fault message. And so they're they've been watching it, but they're gonna try a few things, and if that doesn't work, then I might be back to you for a potential repair of that particular piece of equipment.
I can't, I'm having trouble finding it in the packet, but when I recall reading KVX's report, there were 2 pump stations where they said they respond, it was on the same day, I think it was June 17th, they responded to power outages. And that they arrived on scene and power was restored. Does it mean they did it, or there was no generator and it just naturally powered itself back up?
The Wilshire pump station does have a generator. I think even if that's the case, they get a message that the power has gone out. And so they go and make sure everything's functioning properly. The other one was the Baker's Lane. Baker's Lane does not.
It was the same day, so we must have had.
Yeah, we must have had a power, and it's in the same area. Both of those are the Springton Point Estate or Springton Point Estate, I think is right. They're both in that same area. And that Baker's Lane is a very small pump station. I think it does 3 houses, 5 houses, something like
Oh,
that.
that's it.
And so anytime that one fails, they always go check on it. And what I think they're saying, basically, as I understand it, by the time they got there, power was back up and operational, even though we had lost power in that area beforehand.
Okay,
All of
so
these items on that, their report that they provided, are they part of the contract that we have with them, or are there additional?
Yeah,
bills that are
so
issued?
the contract is their daily service that they go out and provide you. They're out at every pump station 5 days a week.
Mhm.
If they get called in on the weekends, that's over and above.
Okay,
And without looking it up, the 17th wasn't, but it was actually the
it was,
21st.
it's not, it's the 21st. I
21.
found it. It's page
21.
90.
Yeah, 21st was, 21st was in the middle of the week. So I'm sure they discounted that as their trip for the day. If they hadn't been there already.
okay. All right, anything else?
No, those were the main things I had. Thank you. Oh, you did ask me one other thing. We are finishing up on the letters and the invoices. We should be ready to mail out as soon as we get the wire installed at the pump station. So, and then I would make a mention that I've been working with some of the folks over at Dogwood, and they think they've gone together and gotten the same contractor, and so they're working through that process as well and getting connected.
Question on the Ellis, the broken lift crane, Dave, weren't they working on a temporary fix for that or some kind of remedy for that?
I think Dave is working on a solution there.
Yeah, we're trying to source a contractor to come out and make that adjustment. Basically to replumb it. Yeah. So still working on it.
Okay.
All right, I guess then we can move on to item 9.1. Consider approving the bills and check register A dated July 17, 2023, totaling $3,972.76.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next, consider approving a bond payment totaling $151.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Paul needs to unmute.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
thanks, Paul. All right, moving on, this is 10.1, consider approving a bond payment totaling $151 to Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services LLC for Newtown Township, Delaware County Municipal Authority Public Official Bond on Thomas Greco.
I think it really should say it's not a bond payment. It's actually a payment for a bond. And I think that's worded.
Just revising then the motion to
Payment
read,
to.
consider approving a payment
Totally.
totaling $151. Otherwise, It remains the same.
Correct.
Okay.
Very good. I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, consider approving a debt service payment totaling $1,067,095.59 for the guaranteed sewer revenue bond, series 2018.
And we're going to change that to a transfer of funds for the payment.
Consider approving a transfer of funds for a payment totaling $1,067,095.59 for the guaranteed sewer revenue bond, series 2018. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, consider approving the payment to Lisa Lister for repairs to the lateral at 4016 Westchester Pike that appeared to be damaged during a sewer project build out in the amount of $17,858.05. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any questions or comments regarding that one? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right, next, 10.4, consider approving the following payments from the bond associated with the 537 public sewer project build out. Are these all accurate, Steve? Just making sure before I read them all. From the,
Well, I think you may want to take these and yes, they're all accurate, I think.
You want to do them one by one.
One
I
by
think you
one?
want to probably do them one by one just because of what they are.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna break up this 10.4 into a series of motions. The first one being consider approving this payment in the amount of 115,000 from the bond associated with 537 public sewer project build out to AP Construction for the construction of the access drive at the old Masters Pump Station.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding that one?
We took a pause at last meeting on this. We were gonna sort of get back to those guys with respect to what this driveway was supposed to be like, and this is now back on our agenda. Are we satisfied?
I
Is this
think-
payment in full, I guess, would be a good,
Yeah.
yeah, is this payment in full and,
Yes, so this is payment in full, including the three change orders. The original amount was $96,000. There was three other change orders that brought the total amount to the $115,000. They have completed all of the construction improvements related to that particular quote and the change orders. With the recent rainfall, there's some areas of the driveway that need to be addressed. In addition to that, the Conservation District has asked when we would like to file for our notice of termination for that NPDES permit. And AP asked to set up a meeting with us to go and do kind of sort of final punch list. So they can come back and address those items that we feel are outstanding. So with that, in my opinion, the driveway has been constructed satisfactorily. There have been some issues with the rainfall that have caused some washout and some sedimentation across the driveway that they have committed to return to address. It may be prudent for the authority to withhold a portion of that payment or to authorize the payment in full and withhold the check amount, sending them the check until those items have been addressed in the field.
not sure I
If you're
understood
gonna
this
do one or
option
the
to
other of those, I'd recommend the latter, because we don't
I'm not
have a
sure I
payment request
understand.
for a portion.
Can't we request a hold back until the punch orders, but the punch list is done?
You could approve and hold until the punch list is done. That might be before your next meeting, so you could do it subject to Dave or Steve's approval. If it was built to spec, it was built to spec, right? So I think that's the issue, whether we need to address some things. Because we've seen the results of the rainfall and we need to adjust the specification that would be additional work, I think. So my recommendation would be to either table this or to approve it and hold. I just get concerned when we approve payments that aren't consistent with the payment request. I'd rather, if we're gonna do that, we go back and say, hey, our intent is to pay you whatever it is, and can you put in a payment request for that? I think those should always match for your bookkeeping purpose.
At the very least, could we use that road to get the type of vehicle or vehicles we need to get up to that pump station?
It's not gonna interfere with the completion of the wiring either.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, I think I'm comfortable with approving the payment, but hold until the punch list is complete. Right? And then, I mean, I don't see a means of, I don't think we should be withholding any because it's been done, the work is complete. I mean, the question is there going to be any incentive for them to do any additional work if it's a small amount of work?
Well, I mean,
The incentive is that they're co-permittees on that permit, so they would be obligated to
and you're holding
complete.
their check until they complete the work.
Absolutely, yes.
I guess the issue is if there's additional work beyond the spec, we're gonna have to negotiate a change order anyhow. And query whether we do that with this contractor or we'd see quotes or whatever the case may be, if this is built to spec and they come out and they, fix any punch list items.
Yeah, I agree. I, until the punch list is done, I would send the check out.
Why don't you approve it subject to Steve's approval, and then, he and Dave can communicate on the punch list items and he can send it out once it's complete, once they're complete.
All right, so just revising the motion to have that payment to AP Construction, subject to approval by our operations manager, Stephen Case. To include, I guess we should state to in so that he's satisfied with the punch list and completion of the punch list items.
So can I drag you down in the weeds on procedure here?
Sure.
So
Want me to
that's a
amend?
motion to amend the motion, right?
Okay.
So,
a
second
motion.
on that in the motion.
Yep.
To amend the motion, and you'll need another motion on the amended motion.
Okay, and I'm okay doing that right afterwards, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so now that let's take a vote on amending the agenda as stated. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now,
Now you can call the vote on the amended. motion.
yes, now I'm going to make a motion to.
You have the
I have
motion, because you just amended it. You
Okay,
just need a vote.
okay, so now let's have a vote on the amended agenda item. Amended agenda,
Amended motion.
amended motion.
Yeah, see what happened is you had a motion in the second, and at that point, the motion belongs to the table.
Yeah.
So you need board action to amend the motion.
Gotcha. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, just a vote, just call.
I mean, just a vote
Yep,
on the,
all in favor
Amended
of the
motion.
amended
all
motion.
those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I don't know, sometimes I don't think I'm good with instruction.
I think you did
Kind of
wonderful.
better off just letting me go.
If you had a
Um,
different person sitting in this chair, you probably would have
yeah.
gotten away with it.
I don't, I mean. Okay, next, consider approving payment from the bond associated with 537 Public Sewer Project build out. In the amount of $10,706.85 to Catania and Parker LLP for legal services related to the old Masters Pump Station.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
thank you. Any questions or comments on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right, next item, consider approving payment from the bond associated with 537 Public Sewer Project build out in the amount of $97,040.62 to JOA Bradley for construction work related to the Ashford area 537 build out. Repetitious, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, consider approving payment in the amount of $29,837.92 to JOA Bradley for construction work related to the Camelot area build-out station as with payment from the bond associated with 537 project. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Right? Any questions or comments regarding that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next, consider approving
Madam Chair, the next one is actually tabled.
tabled.
And
Okay.
it's still not ready to come before you. I would suggest that you let it stay tabled at this time.
We are tabling the next item. All right, moving on to new business. Consider approving the revised Stony Knoll sewer plan consisting of 17 EDUs on behalf of the municipal authority. Do I hear a motion? I'll make the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments on this one?
If you don't mind, if I could just give you a little bit of history where we are.
Thank
So
you.
you know why you have this before. You've actually probably voted on this at least twice before, if I remember right. I think you voted on it once as a 23 or 24 lot subdivision, then you voted on it as a 13, and now it's a 17. So Mr. Nolan came in, he had done the project at 27, decided that the neighbors didn't like that. And so he came back at a 13. The township said you still need to put in the water line. But he felt then that he needed more lots to pay off the water line piece. So that's why he came back in and did 17. The township has passed the land development process with him and has approved his 17 lot subdivision. I didn't want to sign this because you had only approved 13 as the last one, so I wanted to bring it back to you. If I recall the last time, and then Dave may weigh in on this a little bit, the last time when we did this, how did you had gotten the, even when we did the 23 or 26 lots, whatever it was, we had actually used the flow that Melmark had turned back to the municipal authority. It was in that same area. It made sense. Again, that's what we did when we did the 13, the 26 and the 13. You would be doing the same, that we would just be picking up those 4 additional EDUs, which would reduce the amount of the Melmark. But Dave, I don't know if you have anything else on that.
No, Steve, that was summarized pretty thoroughly. The 17 EDUs, obviously the capacity for the 17 EDUs is there, considering we've already gone through the 27 lot capacity. So this is a matter of housekeeping as far as the DEP is concerned. So what the authority is certifying the capacity in the system for that development. They'll take that capacity certification and process it through the planning module process with the DEP. I do want to make the authority aware, if they haven't been, if they're not aware already. And this is sort of consistent with the other couple of land development plans that were filed, is that they're all going to be on a low pressure sanitary sewer system with grinder pumps and low pressure mains. They are offering for dedication the sanitary sewer mains within the streets to the authority. Whether the authority accepts those is entirely up to the authority. The roads are to remain private. They would need to provide easements over the roads for the sanitary sewer if the authority does choose to accept dedication. If not, then the responsibility of operation and maintenance of that system would be part of the homeowners association's covenant. So with that, I have nothing further to add.
So what is the process, like the timeline? If we approve the EDUs, at what point do we address that issue that you're bringing up now, Dave, as far as accepting dedication?
So the authority, typically the procedure that would be followed is it would be identified or memorialized in their land development agreement. There would be a sanitary sewer agreement as well that would be memorialized, and they would offer in that agreement dedication to the authority. There would have to be financial security posted. And then once they construct the project, at that point, the authority, if everything was constructed properly, all the testing passes, There'll be an 18-month maintenance period where they have to provide a cost of 15% of the actual cost of construction for that maintenance period. Once the 18 months is up, then the authority would be in a position to accept dedication of that sanitary sewer main.
And would there be any reason to hold up an easement if all of that went, as you said?
You say that differently.
Would the easement ever be an issue down the
But
road?
we require that they give us the easement and development agreement. I'm sorry, Steve. In the development agreement too, so that when you accept dedication, a precursor of you actually accepting dedication will be us having the easement.
Okay, thank you.
So the materials provided to us in the packet include a lot of documents, some signed by Delcora, some signed by our planning commission, some signed by our engineer. All of the dates that officials have signed are previous to the township approving a 17-lot subdivision. Many of these documents reference an 18-lot subdivision. And what's the meaning of the documents? And
So that inconsistency may or may not be an issue with the DEP. As far as the authority is concerned, we've already certified that we can provide capacity for 18 lots. If the DEP reviews it and says, okay, we're going to approve your 17-lot development, then their planning is only for the 17 lots. We're not guaranteeing anything by issuing a capacity certification. And in fact, we would memorialize that accordingly in any sanitary sewer agreement with the developer. DEP may come back and say, you have to address this inconsistency in the planning document. Therefore, they'll have to go back.
it's plural, it's inconsistent.
Yes, inconsistency.
Yeah, because it's
Therefore,
right here.
We'll have to create a 17-lot capacity certification. So will the CDCA, so will the
Planning commission.
City of Philadelphia. Yes, the planning commission will have to go back and redo a component 4A.
Do they have preliminary land development at this point or?
They have
preliminary and
fine.
final.
Oh, okay. And then, I'm always concerned about this process too now, in light of some other issues we've had for development.
Yeah,
Are
it's
we
a
gonna
timing
make
issue.
sure that, where is this? Is this the new system? Let's hook up to the new.
It will be
system?
connected to the
Yeah,
new
it
system.
does.
It'll come in through Echo Valley, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
Okay, so,
So here, basically what I'm
We're
looking
approving
for,
17E.
you're approving 17 EDUs.
that is all.
Consistent with the plan. And then I will sign
Yeah,
the
is it
document as
consistent?
the township manager in my role.
It's
there.
consistent with the land development plan that was approved.
As recently revised or whatever. Not
Yeah,
that- not
right.
that.
I mean, if
I know they
these
keep
other
revising
documents,
these
if they
things.
have to be revised, that doesn't really affect what you're doing,
Okay.
what you're being asked to do here tonight.
All of
Which
these
is awesome.
documents are extraneous.
I'm
Yes.
just concerned down the road as we, this whole issue of dedication and everything else. I mean, I just don't want this
I just
to
wanted
run
to be,
away from us.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to be clear that we were only authorizing 17
Yeah.
as both the township and the municipal authority.
Right,
I-
and
And that's.
that's not gonna get away from me
Yep.
because we have intervening documents to come. And we're gonna create the development agreement, the financial security agreement, the sewer agreement, so. We'll be on top of it.
Okay. We appreciate it. We're gonna need some recommendations on that issue of dedication as well. Okay, all right, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Right, next, consider approving the request for reimbursement to Mr. Koenig for removal of 2 trees at a cost of $2,180. Once this, I guess, subject to solicitors receipt of a signed release. Do I hear a
So
motion?
I think you might, this one you might want to keep
Table
table
again.
2. The idea was that there were a couple more issues that Mr. Koenig has, and we wanted to get out to the property and discuss those with him and come to you with a global
I totally
resolution
agree.
rather than
Thought that
piecemeal.
was the deal. So who's following up on that this week? Are you in touch with this homeowner, Mike, or is that?
I
that
haven't been,
Steve?
and I may have dropped the ball on that. I sort of thought Steve was doing it. I think Steve thought I was doing it and,
Yeah, because we do want a global, we know there's other issues.
and we want to
figured
get out
that
there and resolve this too.
at our last meeting, and I know we had less time in between the two meetings because we had an extra meeting, so. Okay,
So
great.
I'll announce that in front of God and everybody that I'll make that call.
Thank you. And Steve, you're gonna make sure that's tabled, okay? All righty, next, moving on. Consider accepting the Glasgow bid of $17,048 for the alternate bid for the township's road program. Do I hear a motion?
A quick question, was there a bid? What was the other bid?
Yeah, so real quickly, when you have two areas that fall under the municipal authority's responsibility to take care of, or at least you had agreed to. One was on Pomona Avenue in Florida Park. If you remember, there was a section that's kind of beyond what is Fairview Lane or Fairview Road down. And so you had agreed that you would go in and do some repairs there on that. And then the second one, if you remember, we had talked about that there was a spot that's behind got the wrong school in my brain, the Malvern School, which is down as we're leaving town, actually in the industrial area back there. There's roughly a 20 by 20 area that's going to have to be dug up. I could tell you that KBX is working on that. They put out for their stuff. KBX is going to do the repair. And then once KBX gets done the repair, we need to fix the parking lot. And so in order to do that, we had gone out and gotten bids. Dave got, I believe, 2 bids. And both of his bids were greater than the amount that the township had gotten when the township did its road program bid. We just threw that in there as an alternate to see what they were doing. And so their alternate bid was this $17,048. And so that's the recommendation of staff, is that you would take the lower of the bids and move forward. Dave might have the exact numbers of the other bids for you if you're interested.
Yeah, so I have a bid from Charlestown Paving and Excavating out of DeVault, PA, and one from Gessler Construction Company Incorporated out of Media. Charlestown Paving came in at $20,050.40, and Gessler came in at $27,900 even.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So 17 sounded cheaper, so I thought that was good.
And I think,
Great.
I think as a board, we addressed that and told them, didn't we talk about it at one meeting? And we suggested that you
got
go
it
get,
last month, but
I wasn't.
Dave wasn't
Yeah.
here, and I think you wanted Dave here just to talk about it once more before you pull the trigger.
gotcha. Well, thanks for doing that legwork. We appreciate it. All right, so I'll make the motion. I don't think we had one on the table.
You do
I'll
not.
second it.
Seconded by Lou. All of those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving on. Consider the complete release of financial security for 2 phases of the sanitary sewer work done at Muirwood Hills. These are, the authority has accepted dedication of the lines. Phase 1, the release totaling $30,510.60. And phase 2 totaling $15,486.90. So I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
Just a quick question. When was this completed, Stephen? Or
The actual work has been about 2
It's a long
years.
time, right?
A couple of years.
couple of years.
What was holding that up was, recall, for Dogwood Lane, we needed to obtain a sanitary sewer, require a sanitary sewer easement over like a 10-foot piece of ground from the Suburban Swim Club to allow that sewer to connect in with the Muirwood sewers that we accepted, so that we could accept dedication. This is just catching up with the paperwork. This is their financial security, complete release of that financial security.
And it's cash, it's not a bond.
It's
It's a bond, I believe.
bond or a letter of credit. one or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a letter of credit, not an escrow.
Probably a letter of credit.
I think it's a
Typically, that's
letter of
how
credit.
people post their security.
Okay.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, so this wouldn't be a payment, it's just releasing them of their obligation to pay their premium.
Got you.
All right, I think that was, motion was made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, any old business, Steve, that we need to?
I don't have anything.
I don't think I have anything either. All right, moving on, public comment.
Sure, thank you.
Sorry you had to wait so long. Just
Not a
state your,
problem.
okay.
First of all, good evening.
Just give us your name and your
I will,
address.
Charlie
Okay,
Brennan.
thank you.
My wife and I own the property at 205 Carriage Lane.
What
205 Carriage Lane, Newtown Square.
Carriage Lane? Thank you.
The Spring House Development.
Gotcha.
So the reason, and good evening to the.
Is your mic on red? Can you, there, okay.
Okay. And good evening to the municipal authority as well. My reason for here tonight is in reference to the meter readings and whether it's confusion or miscommunication. Approximately 2 years ago, sewers were brought into my home, my development. The existing meter that would read the water consumption that was outside of the home was deemed too old. So I installed a new one. At that time, I made the attempts of communicating the readings to Denise Gabon. And I thought I was in good shape throughout the balance of 202. And at the beginning of this year, when I was down in Florida, on February 10th, I have a picture of a meter reading that is just, and I have a picture here, 0.0000010. I was under the assumption I submitted that. That might not have been accurate, whether it was a communication or misinformation or communication on my part. I then kept in conversation with Denise to say, all right, I'm submitting my form for this term. I then submitted the form that read 0170840, submitted the paperwork as it's shown here. Then when I called Denise to make sure everything was accurate, she said to me, I don't have a baseline for you this year. Which then I thought, because of the amount of water I have, because of the renovation, again, I had to do a pool in the outside lawn, that was sizable. So she suggested I come to you guys tonight and share what happened and whether it was an omission on my part, but I do have that 1 meter reading. So I was hoping that I could get the 0s to the 10 baseline submitted. So this way, because my water bills at times from the township for the sewer have been significant, well over $1,000. And I'm hoping I can avoid that here. And by the way, Dave, you look great in a suit.
Thank you, sir.
It has, thank God, right? So that's, I don't know if I'm doing this appropriately, but that is the request is that I could have my reading that I thought was submitted on February 10th accepted as a baseline.
Okay, so,
And just so I understand what you're asking, so our policy, just so the board
Yeah, no, we
understands the
appreciate it.
the policy is that if you don't have, if somebody misses a quarter, they miss that quarter and they have to submit again and have a new baseline prior to the next quarter. What I hear you asking, and I would just want to make sure that I understand right, you want to, you're submitting the reading of, and I just want to make sure which one. I have 4 readings here. Well,
Can I-
about 3 readings.
Provide this for you?
Yes, please.
Sure. So what I did not realize, keep going and finish. So that's the one I thought I'd submitted. Potentially an omission on my part,
when did you?
And
think
that
you
would have been in
submitted that?
February of this year.
February 10th of this year.
Okay.
I'm confused, just in that your reading from 2021 is that. Then your reading from 2022 is 85,000 gallons. And then your reading from 2020, from July of 2022 or ending. Yeah, July of 2022 was that. And then you have 150 for your September reading, I believe it is, or your 8.3 for 2022. I think it's just a little confusing, like what is, or 9.12 reading, I think is what it is. And then you're back to a number that's less than both of those. So I don't know how you did that.
I don't know either. So I'm.
What is your
opposite
reading
this.
today?
So, well, I didn't take a picture of today, but this is of July 1. Because what I do is I just, whether it's
What's the
myself or my
July 1?
daughter,
What's the July one?
get up on
number?
a ladder, take a picture of the top of the meter. I truthfully thought it was reset every year.
The meter should never be reset.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm just, what I'm asking for is, when she said I had no baseline, I was like, wow, I just got a pool redone and filled and sprinklers. This will be a significant bill.
So I'm seeing that you had just for the board, so I have a
And this is
reading
the, Dave,
of 150, I believe it's 150,000 gallons, if I read it right, as of 9/12 of 22. And if this number is correct, it would be 170,000 84 gallons as of 7/1 2023. Is that right? 7/1?
Yes,
How much on 7/1?
170,000. So basically, there's about a 20,500 gallons or something like. I may be reading the meter wrong. It's a third meter, 3/4 inch meter. It must be tens of gallons. So it would be, it's 15. If I put the comma there. Would you read that as 2,000 gallons then?
2,000
Matt, can I just make a comment or maybe a suggestion?
Yes.
Because we're in a public comment period and I'm
Yep.
not quite sure we can do the math or even reconcile some of this stuff right now. Is it possible to take some of that material and maybe come back to us next month with
I
a
think that's the
recommendation?
thing to do is take it, let us look at this, let
Do the-
us look at it against the policy, let us ask
Like-
Mr. Brennan any questions we have and try to give you something you can actually take action on.
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile for Stephen and his team to look at it all, take all of your information, summarize it so that we have I'd like to have a timeline as to the submission dates of,
Yeah,
when Mr. Brennan,
looks like there may have been some
Submitted
sorcery somewhere in the
everything, yeah.
timeline where the meter went
and then
backwards.
drawings, and then
you know,
drawing
except
some,
for
I wouldn't necessarily call it sorcery, but this,
no,
we
but
just go down
also,
and take a picture.
but also coming to some level of, some conclusions as to what it all means.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, we're
make
not
a
gonna do the math.
recommendation to the board.
Yeah, we'll
Good
take
idea.
that one. I think.
Yeah, 'cause I was, when Denise just said it went back, I don't have a baseline, I looked at that and I said, that's probably not a good thing for me.
Well, I mean, the good news is, we do have a policy that, kind of sets forth the whole procedure and, we're gonna look at everything in terms of that, in terms of that policy.
That's fine, as long as I
And
get
we'll,
it in.
and we'll make
I'm
sure
not sure
you're
when the
dealt
bill comes
fairly.
out.
Yeah, so here's what I would tell you. The bill will probably come out.
Yeah.
Unless I get an answer and I can get it back to you beforehand. Because the bill comes out this month. And so I don't think we'll have an answer because I won't be back before the board until August. But the bill will probably come out and we'll work through that. You'll have, your 30 days to pay the bill. So your probably time frame will work and we'll have it figured out probably before you have to pay it.
Right, okay, that's fine. Do you need a phone number on that page? This way you don't put it out in the public. I can write it down for
Would
you.
you just write it down? I don't see one on here, but if you'll
Yeah,
write it
it's whatever's fair.
on this one for me.
And then.
And you're saying that, I just want to make sure I understand that meter reading that you're giving me was as of 7/3.
7/1.
This one's of 7/1. That one says 7/3 on it.
This was the date I submitted, that to the best of my knowledge, I thought this was from February 10th.
Oh,
At
okay,
that number, and I thought it was reset every year.
okay,
I just don't know.
okay. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Is
you.
that it?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay.
No, that's it. Okay, okay.
If I may.
Oh, one more comment.
Yes,
Please
thank
forgive
you.
me.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Paul Winterhalter. I'm a resident at 3801 Cottage Lane in Newtown Square. I would like to speak to you briefly tonight regarding the processes and procedures for obtaining a credit on a sanitary sewer invoicing for an irrigation system use. I have an irrigation system in my home and I have a second meter. On a quarterly basis, I'm required to prepare and deliver a second meter report and to receive a sewer fee credit for the water used for the irrigation system. Recently, I submitted my report, which was due July the 5th, and I was told I was not eligible to receive that credit because I did not file my April the 5th report. Presumptively, there was no starting number or something like that. Now, I've submitted many reports before, but I was advised by Ms. Gabon to present this situation to this board. Frankly, it's completely illogical. The entire water usage which passes through the second meter is placed into the soil and is not running through the sanitary sewer system. So as a consequence, it should not be subject to the sewer tax. It's a closed system. So at no time, if you have a second meter, will the water running through the second meter go into the system. So the second meter or the meter readings are in April, July, October, and I think January. So my meter reading in January and my meter reading in April are really going to be the same because you don't have your irrigation system on during the winter. Frankly, you don't probably have it on between October and April. But because numbnuts like me did not file the April report, I'm not eligible for the July report credit when I file the July report. Because that just does not seem to be fair, and it allows the municipal authority to tax water that isn't passing through the system. So I would request that you consider modifying the process and procedures to allow for the existence of the former reading regardless of when it is, because none of that water will ever go or be treated by the sanitary sewer system. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I think it's
I think
relative.
the problem is, what we've tried to get around with our policy is having to, all we can use is use of water as a means of determining what to bill everyone. So, we're trying to avoid a situation where we don't get proper notice of these meter readings or the water usage that we're seeing come through Aqua that didn't actually go through the system. So, I'm not sure there's another efficient way to do it, but to me, it seems you got to give us the meter readings every quarter regardless. Now, I don't know. I mean, does
Madam
it-
Chair, if I
Yes,
might, just
go
one of
ahead.
the reasons why I think you put in the policy in place was that your concern was that if people were taking potentially several quarters to turn it in, you
Yeah.
could potentially have one of two things that would happen. One, a negative bill, because we would actually bill less because the water usage from the second meter would actually register more than because over that period of time. The second thing was that you were counting on the dollars. At least my
That's what I was
understanding is what
getting
you were talking
Yeah.
about, is that your concern is that you start counting on those dollars being there. And if you start having significant number of people turning it in later, it actually changes the
Well-
dollars that are coming in.
We did, and revenue recognition is a significant issue in a very small authority. In a perfect world, we would hire crews of people to go out and read those second meters. It would be virtually cost prohibitive to do that. And so what we were faced with were people coming back a year later saying, this is what my second usage was. So we put the onus on the users to come back to us. We established a policy probably 5 months ago, 6 months ago. I don't remember when it was. But
Well, you know,
it's a significant challenge because we've got revenue recognition is a critical issue for us, and reversing revenue is hard when you don't have retained earnings in a public authority.
With all due respect, I don't see it as a problem at all. I also see it as a potential issue, perhaps in violation of the Municipal Authorities Act, because what you're effectively doing is imposing taxation or imposing a sewer fee on water that doesn't pass through the system. Under the Municipal Authorities Act, there are certain powers that this authority has, and that's dictated based on water usage. Even though the meter reflects, if you have a second meter, it is always going to confirm how much water went into the system versus how much water did not go into the system.
yeah,
Now,
but we don't know that until you give us the information. That's the problem. Because our only information that we're getting regarding your usage is based on what Aqua has. So for instance, I fill my pool up, maybe every other year or so. And my bill reflects the usage. I don't have a second meter. So I know I can't come to this authority and ask for a credit.
but I do have a second meter.
I know, and you have a second meter, but you got to give us the information or we can't help you.
Let me ask you something. Would you accept the notion that you're not likely to use your irrigation system during the months of
But we don't
November,
even know,
December, January,
but-
February, March, and April?
But
You're not going to use it. So
Listen.
why would you adopt a policy
listen,
that says,
everything you're saying is completely reasonable, but
Yes.
the one thing that it's not factoring in is the information we get on our side, which is only your water usage, whether it goes into the system or does not. And we don't have a means of reading meters separately. So therefore, we're offering you a benefit. We're saying, listen, we're not going to charge you for that water that we think you're using and is going into our system because we're a small authority. Okay, which the benefit
I'm a
we
small
pass those,
person. I'm a
yeah, and
small
we
person."
pass those benefits off to you, by attempting to run this authority efficient.
So let me make a couple of suggestions, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
No, we love it. Yeah.
One, I think that for Mr. Neese's concern about the fearful of a credit, a credit balance, don't reimburse those monies. Just allow the credit balance to stay there because the person will have to flush the toilet next week and there will be sanitary sewage usage. And as a result, you'll never have to pay any cash back. So from a cash standpoint, you won't lose the money. Although I sincerely doubt that there would not be that significant a credit under normal circumstances for a second meter. I would also suggest that you reconsider your policy and say, if someone has not provided a report within a year, or perhaps make a policy that shows that if you miss a summer payment, or if you miss a summer reading, then you should readjust. But it's illogical to say you didn't put it in April when they weren't using the meter or they weren't using the irrigation system in April. They weren't using it in January, February, and March because you just don't do that. It's probably closed at that point. The bottom line is there's less restrictive policies that can be imposed to allow fundamental fairness to occur. And this
Yeah.
is just right
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
the
that's our
policy
goal.
provides.
That was our goal when we adopted it. So you're identifying an issue that, it's not perfect.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to make an observation. I'm on septic. I have a pool, I have an irrigation system. My neighbor has the exact same setup 3 or 4 doors down. They also have an outdoor greenhouse. And I talked to them about that and I said, how do you work your irrigation with that? They use an irrigation all year long through that, but turn everything else off. So to your point, how would we know? And so they're on septic, so it's a different issue. But how would we know in your case if you didn't have a greenhouse? That's the control point that we have, is that we can't see a bill. Until we see a bill, there's nothing we can prove.
Well, you have an application process and you can identify all uses in the application process, and then the township would have the information about whether there's a greenhouse or ancillary uses such as a swimming pool.
We
There are
can't really-
methodologies that can
We
address.
can't
these.
go out to every house and confirm that they don't have a greenhouse, for instance.
But what you do is you request an application for a second meter
We
reading
offer that
process.
as a benefit. We don't even have to do that. We do not have to have this policy in place. No,
I will
I mean,
argue that you
You don't have
cannot,
to do it.
you cannot tax or assess a fee for use that does not go through the sanitary sewer system. You do have some limited scope of authority under the Municipal Utilities Act. You do.
Well, we will certainly have our solicitor look at that issue. We clearly want to make sure our policies comply with the Municipal Authorities Act. And we will certainly have him take another look at that. And your comments are well taken. It's a policy we put a lot of effort into and a lot of work with the main impetus for the policy was to treat our residents, our fellow residents, our neighbors fairly. And we thought what we had put in place was a fair policy.
It was
I think
to
you are-
treat your neighbors and the authority fair.
Exactly, treat our
So
neighbors and the authority.
So
fairly.
a couple of comments. The first of which is, I appreciate that comment about the winter months. My guess is nobody's running an irrigation system in the winter months. And I think it would be a good idea maybe to go back and look at our policy. The policy was not only, I think, well-intentioned, but I fully support it. Primarily because we have a revenue recognition issue. It's not cash. Credit bills, debit bills, they don't make a difference. That's a cash issue. It's what actually gets recorded as revenue on our books and then subsequently having to reverse it. And so, if we have quote unquote a receivable that extends 90 days or 120 days, that we now find out it was in a second meter reading and we just decide out of the goodness of our hearts to reverse it. We've already closed out a quarterly period, and to some extent, it's an existential challenge for the authority. We don't have retained earnings like a regular company would, where we could make an adjustment for a billing error or a billing adjustment. Aqua does it all the time, but it's a privately held company, a publicly traded company, but it's a private company with tons of retained earnings. We have zero retained earnings as a not-for-profit. I would recommend that we go and maybe look at this sort of winter month thing as a suggestion. I would not change or even support the requirement that we don't get prompt second meter billing readings, but there may be some reasonableness within the winter months, and that would be my suggestion. I don't have numbers here. I don't have any data about Mr. Winterthaler's issue, so beyond that suggestion, we can't really do anything. But
I just ask you to think about what we've discussed tonight and
Absolutely.
consider the challenges and perhaps the deficiencies that may exist.
right, we have had issues, and again, we don't have sewer meters. So we don't know what people are actually using. We only know what they're buying from Aqua.
Yes, I understand.
Aqua kindly gives us their data and we know what they're buying. We apply a factor to it. Other municipalities apply different factors to it. So we're sort of, we don't control the revenue points. And we're trying to hold the line as much as possible. Because we have people paying promptly. And we want to make sure that they're paying the right amount.
I understand that.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. All right, and with that, well, unless we want to identify items, we did table a couple items.
The next meeting.
For the next meeting, one was the last one on 10.4. And then we had another one at. Got them all noted. Good job.